I can't find it.
It's there.
I got it. I got it.
I think the difference between the two scenes, the starting scene with Xena and Gabrielle in the forest, that had to feel like a very normal start to a Xena episode, you know, sort of everything was well. Xena was passing on information to Gabrielle, teaching her about the healing process. And then that obviously becomes a story point later on in the prison when Gabrielle turns up. She has these skills that mean that she's able to befriend the commandant, who is the person that Xena had supposedly killed at the time.
What in Tartarus have you been carrying on these shoulders?
I wouldn't know. Try not to overanalyze my life like some people.
Some people say the unexamined life is not worth living.
Those people haven't lived my life.
Late one night as I was flipping through the channels, I came across Papillon and watched that and went, wow, that's a great movie. How do we take the essence of Devil's Island and put Xena in that situation? The one thing that always works on Xena is to put Xena herself in physical hardship, because the audience always roots for her then.
Get up! Well, messenger boy, who are you and what do you want?
We've come to bring you to justice.
Xena kind of just giving up. You know, Xena obviously had a pretty dark past, and she did a lot of bad things. And I think the event with Thalassa, I don't know, might have just been, in her mind, maybe one of the worst things. Even she was going, man, that was pretty hardcore. So I think when all of a sudden, you know, she gets this parchment and she hears the name Thalassa, and that throws her into the flashback, I don't know, you know, I think, you know, she maybe to herself kind of felt like she does have to answer for this.
Here.
What are you doing?
I'm going back with them.
I added in that handing of the chakram over because I wanted to bookend it with handing it back to her at the end. Just, I don't know, some little visual thing of her surrendering herself, and then Gabrielle kind of presenting it back to her, like, you know, this, you're back.
Quiet! Settle down in this court! Silence here!
It wasn't going to work unless Xena went to prison, and so we wrote Xena Went to Prison.
You give us what we want, or we kill the girls.
It was an empty threat.
You know, one of the things about mean Xena, and we never really reconciled that she was a bad person who's trying to do right, but her past kept interfering. And through the first season, we did that in the first, like, 10 episodes all the time, this person from her past and that. And then we kind of dropped that runner and then picked it up periodically. And this was another case of being able to pick up Xena's past.
I think Xena meant for Thalassa to die with the crabs. I think that was, because I think that's part of the thing that haunts her, is because it was so brutal, and it obviously wasn't a quick death, that I think she certainly planned on Thalassa's death, and I think that's part of the thing that's haunted her over the years, and when all of a sudden this comes back at her, why she kind of resigns herself so quickly to it.
Your guilt in this matter.
I do.
Then I sentence you to life imprisonment on Shark Island.
So this was a chance for her to make amends for the things she did that was wrong, because there was no question that she had done a bad thing. She had fed this poor woman to the crabs, left her to die there, basically.
And they had just built this set. It was about knee deep, and we had to pump it full of, I believe it was salt water, because we got these crabs from the ocean. We had something like 60 crabs, and somebody had gone out and caught these things before. So we had them all in these igloos, these little cooler things. And you know, of course, we have to get Katrina halfway down in the water, and it's because of the crabs and stuff, it has to be at a certain temperature, and it wasn't warm. We wanted these scenes of her sitting there thrashing all these crabs kind of skirting all over her body, and you just plop them down and they just sit there. And I remember sitting there looking at the monitor going, you know, every single one of these things could be fake. Live crabs we're having to tie strings onto and pull them around. Magic of editing that made that scene even look somewhat respectable and not too laughable. I always like the idea of Xena kind of giving in, and you know, because that's something you don't see her do too often, being thrown into this prison where, you know, she's just kind of resigned to it. I remember reading and when I shot it, being really intrigued of her standing there and watching the first female prisoner being brought out and sent to her execution. The normal Xena, as we know, we wouldn't just stand there and let that happen. And I remember kind of thinking, wow, that's kind of cool that she's just, you know, she's letting it happen, which really kind of showed her state of mind.
One of the things that was hard with Locked Up and Tied Down was Xena had to willingly go to prison, and then, but she still had to maintain herself as Xena, the fighter. So once she got into prison, all of her acts were acts of defiance against the injustice within that penal system.
You're a real hero, aren't you?
No.
So she was still Xena battling for all the things she stood for, but now battling for that in the enclosed world within a prison. And therefore, the person who was executed, that wasn't given a burial, she took it upon herself to, in the pouring rain and mud and thunder and lightning, to bury this poor lost soul.
Lucy didn't complain at the read-through about the rain in the building of the grave because there was no rain in the script. I added that in. I remember thinking, man, that scene would be really neat in the rain, just the whole emotional side of it and dramatic, visually it'd be spectacular. So yeah, I added it. I just added that in, and I don't know when I don't think she kind of saw it until you know, shortly before we were going to shoot it, and she saw, you know, looked up and said, "What's that?" And it's like, oh well.
We have control over the rain. We're using rain towers in that situation, so we can sort of minimise the impact to us, you know, and to the camera department. But then it's always difficult. It's a night shoot. There was lightning involved, you know, and then obviously very, very heavy rain. So yeah, there's a lot of issues there, and also exposure and just quality of the image changes quite a bit when you're starting to deal with shooting through rain. So, you know, there's a wee bit involved with sort of getting that stuff right.
And as much as Lucy and Renee and the other actors and actresses found the physical discomfort of those situations virtually unbearable at times due to New Zealand winters and that, they also realized when they ran over to the monitor to see the take afterward, they went, "Oh, that looks cool." So their feelings were tempered with their own physical pain and, hey, it looks cool on film.
Throw her into the pit.
The rats. You know, we just bring in the rats. We just were corralling and pushing them, and you know, I'd pick them up and just kind of throw them onto her. And
they're not actually that comfortable. They're not ferocious animals at all. They, you know, they're not going to sort of jump in there and try and attack a human being. That's the last thing they want. They want to get away from the human being. So I think you can actually even see in some of the shots rats being sort of lobbed onto Xena as if they're attacking her. It was pretty hard, and it was very hard on Lucy. It was, I don't think anyone's comfortable with rats, and she was definitely in there with, you know, however many we had, 50 or 100 rats.
I can't remember if it was in the script or if it was her idea about Xena, you know, biting the rats. I think that might have been her idea because that's the sort of humor she has.
And we incorporated her grabbing a rat with her teeth and flinging it away, and that was something that we hadn't done before, nor had we seen done before, and it was a good moment to make the audience go, "Ooh!" So yes, we wrote rats, and she moaned for a minute, and then went, "Oh, that'll be cool."
Well, she's definitely surprised that there was a female healer coming in. That was obviously a first there at Shark Island. And, you know, Gabrielle just has such a way of being so kind of comforting, which I think something Thalassa certainly wasn't getting in that environment.
Can you heal the pain, or are you just a fraud like all the others?
Where does it hurt?
One of the things that we had to do as storytellers was find a connection for the Gabrielle character in the story, so that the camp commandant lived in incredible pain and that Gabrielle wanted to be a healer. That was really a little arc that she ran in the fourth season, was she really wished that she could be a healer. That was a perfect connection between, to give her somebody to connect to further push forward her storyline, what she hoped to accomplish.
Why do I feel like it's still there?
Maybe you haven't accepted the loss.
And what would you know about loss?
A few things.
Unfortunately, there was a lot of wonderful scenes between Renee and Katrina that were cut, which really kind of padded out their whole Gabrielle trying to get her trust. And because like right now you watch it and Thalassa's all of a sudden just really trusts Gabrielle, and a lot of people, you know, it's just kind of like, wow, she certainly kind of is going with her real easily. But there was a lot of scenes in between that Gabrielle had to really kind of gain this trust that unfortunately is all gone. But yeah, I think she just simply found somebody that she could talk to, you know, have girl talk with.
You have such warmth and beauty. I had that once too.
So it was always something that we had scripted, and I think to more or less it worked within the story, and I think both women played it very well. Now the camp commandant is the pink Power Ranger.